Hey friends, Alexis here. In this video, I'm going to be touching on a handful of points regarding preparedness. Whether you're an individual or you have a significant other or a spouse, or you have a family with children, perhaps even living with parents, it's always a good idea, I think, to think ahead and be prepared for a variety of life circumstances um, that might come your way. For the average person, most people are really just trying to get by day to day as it is. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, and things right now with inflation, like it's making it hard to even just put groceries on the table. So I want you to take everything I share in this video with a grain of salt, and hopefully you can consider it just information and hopefully a little bit of wisdom. So I'm going to touch on 5 points. I have a paper here with some notes on it that I'm going to be referencing. So if you see me glancing down, that's what I'm looking at. It's something that I'm interested in. It's something that I've considered and sort of dipped my toes into in the past, and it's something that I would like to take more seriously in my day to day and in my grocery shopping and my lifestyle, the way that I organize and manage my home, as well as the way that I teach my children. The first point is to simply consider it wise. Consider it wise to have some extra food and water and hygiene supplies, really essential things that you would need in a situation where maybe you have a small paycheck and you just need some of those extra supplies to get you by for the next week or two until you get paid again. There's such a spectrum when it comes to being prepared. We can be prepared for financial reasons, we can be prepared for the loss of family members or loved ones, we can be prepared to support other people in our family and friend circle and neighbors who maybe they experience something sudden. And then there's another end of the spectrum where there's a doomsday prepper. So I don't think it's wise necessarily to start off, in the very least, to start off having a mindset of fear and scarcity and doomsday. Right? I don't think that gets anybody off on the right foot when it comes to preparedness, but rather thinking about it as a means of just practicality. It can just be a really practical thing to have extra things on hand. Sometimes, your friend or your sibling or whoever might need a babysitter, like now. They might need you to just drop what you're doing and rush over to their house to watch their kids so they can tend to another urgent situation that maybe they have. And if you have just a backpack that has some extra snacks in it and maybe a change of clothes for you and your child or whatever it may be, just being able to grab that and go so that you can help someone else, I think that just adds a, a fantastic layer of like practicality to everyday life and everyday situations that can happen. That way, you're not, scrambling to put some things together and get out the door when you're really called into action to be quick. So just considering it a wise thing to do. And if you do find that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to do that, then I would say start slow, start easy. I'm still in the very beginning process of gathering some preparedness essentials, things like food, water, just some of those extra things that we can keep on hand. And thinking about what are some of those practical life scenarios that might actually happen for me and my family, and what are some ways that we would be helped by having certain extra things on hand. And so I'm learning a bunch. I'm taking in a lot of information right now, taking notes and really evaluating my our situation. But if you do think it's a wise thing to do, I would say consider a 3-day plan a 3-week plan, and a 3-month plan. But even just starting at that 3-day mark of, okay, I have enough food, water, hygiene, essentials for my family to last 3 days that we can draw from in the case where, yeah, over the weekend, maybe we don't have what we need to go to that picnic or go on that spontaneous camping trip, right? Because we don't get paid for another few days after the weekend's over. But having some of those supplies on hand to where you can just pack them up and take them with you. Or for, of course, other like more urgent and emergency situations. But once you have an idea of where to start with, like either 3-day, 3-week, 3-month kind of plan, and you have an idea of what you want to work toward initially, that just kind of gets you started and gets the ball rolling, and you can really take it as far as you want from there. And yeah, so point number 2, I touched on it briefly, is to then evaluate your family, your situation, your needs. Some people have certain medications that they need, or maybe they have allergies, and certain over the counter medications might help with that. And, there also might be things like reading glasses or, eyeglasses, and certain things that particular families or certain people in your family might need or find really helpful. Those are some things to consider. And I would also say consider your location. Like, what's your weather like? What are the seasons like where you live? What are some natural disasters that you might be prone to experiencing in your area? And also, like, observe your family's habits, some of your dietary habits. What is your kind of like schedule like with eating? Are you kind of all day grazers? Or are you really good at having like scheduled meals and you eat at pretty consistent times every day? Also, what are your energy use habits like? Do you wake up early in the morning when it's still dark outside and turn on the light in every room that you walk into? Are you staying up until late hours of the night when you're using the lights in your home and electronics and things like that? Because in a situation where maybe the power's out, you're only going to have daylight to work with. So just really like observing and kind of taking like a mental note or even an actual note of just kind of some of those habits and patterns that you're used to, and considering how they might be affected in a variety of different, like urgent or emergency or even just inconvenient situations, like having the power out for a few days or something like that. And from that point, also taking a look at like evaluating your home space. So, how, like, where are you going to store some of these extra supplies that you have? Like, in what ways are you going to be organized? How are they going to be easily accessible in an urgent or like emergency situation? Or is it just going to be something that you're kind of rotating through on a regular basis? So you need regular, easy access to it. So just kind of observing and evaluating some different factors about your lifestyle, your home, your family, potential situations that are likely to happen for you and your family and in your location. And then let's get on to number 3. So, number 3 is something that has been kind of a fun and interesting thing for me to learn about, because it just kind of shifts your perspective of how you operate in your life and around other people. And this is OPSEC. So, OPSEC essentially means operational security. So, if you were to build up a whether small or generous or pretty large supply of like excess food, water, hygiene products, um, first aid supplies, things like that. The list can go on. If you were to do that for your family, um, in times of need, if other people are aware of that and they know where to find your supplies, or they know that you're into this sort of thing, or that you're prepared and you have supplies and food and water and materials and things that they might need, then it could potentially make you a target and kind of hinder the security of your family or your home or the supplies that you've worked so hard and invested in gathering and supplying for your family. So considering OPSEC and just really the way that you move in public, like and in particular, this would be more for situations of like civil unrest and really like extended or prolonged like emergencies where people are looking for food and water and heat and shelter and a whole variety of like resources. And really, you can think about this in extreme terms and like extreme situations that could happen, but also just being aware too of sometimes the people around us can be greedy a little bit or selfish, and they might, if people know that you have something that would be valuable to them, they might come seeking handouts. And it might just be, even if it's in times when, sure, you could actually help somebody, and maybe you do help them once or maybe twice, but knowing that other people are aware of exactly what you've got going on, how much you have of things, how you access them, that can just make you kind of an easy target in non-dangerous and potentially dangerous ways, just kind of depending on the situation, depending on the people um, who are aware of your level of preparedness and the supplies that you have on hand. So that's just something to consider, and I think that it's an important thing to be aware of in the beginning, because I know that when you get into something new and it feels like it's giving you peace of mind and it's a productive thing for you to do, it can be exciting. I get excited about stuff like that. I'm here sharing on a video with you about things like that, but it's also important to like know when to share and when to keep quiet, and also to just be mindful of um, how your items are organized and set up and their location and things like that. So operational security or OPSEC is something to consider from the beginning if you're considering getting prepared for urgent or emergency or even inconvenient situations. Number 4 is current impact. So I think, at least for me, as I've been considering some of these points that I've talked about and just really got started getting some extra food and water and, supplies on hand to have in case we ever need them, is just the impact that it's going to have on my home space, my everyday life, some of my shopping and spending habits. I think that it's a good opportunity, like I said, to evaluate your space for one, as far as like where am I going to keep the things, but also evaluating your space in the sense of being organized and like reducing distractions. And there's so many reasons why that's a good thing to do. And it doesn't just pertain to preparedness. Reducing distractions makes us more present in our relationships. It can help us like reduce anxiety and worry and stress and fear and things like that. And it could just help us be more productive overall and just enjoy life more. But it may be a good time to like kind of go through your home, go through the items that you have, see what's useful to you right now, and things that aren't useful to you right now, like take them out of your immediate space, filter them out of your immediate and your like everyday use. um, and for some people, like, yeah, it might make sense for certain items to have a yard sale or post things on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp, to try and sell things to earn money for other items that you need. And those may or may not be preparedness items. They might just be things that I need right now, this week, whatever. But kind of just looking around your home, simplifying things, um, to be more organized, being more efficient, having more clarity and headspace and fewer distractions, that would really help in urgent and emergency situations. We need to be able to think and move on the fly. Like we need to just have quick response times in all kinds of situations, even if that's just, you know, getting burned while cooking in your kitchen, or your child falls down the steps on the back deck and they scrape their knee or something like that. And you need to quickly get the supplies that you need in that situation, but having a mess in your garage is keeping you from reaching the first aid kit quickly enough, and just a whole variety of things. So I think it's just a good opportunity to evaluate your home, evaluate your possessions. What things are helpful to you in your everyday life right now? What things could you really go without? And what are some of those things, like clothing in larger sizes, or, oh, I don't know, that huge bag of cotton balls that you've used 3 cotton balls from? What are some of those things that you can put away in like a deep storage, or a like rotating pantry, or a deep pantry that you have, or with your preparedness supplies that are in like one specific area, so they're not getting in the way and making distractions and making more busy work for you in your everyday life, to where like they're not as helpful as they could be if they were just organized better, or if they were just reduced or eliminated altogether. So, yeah, just taking a look at your home and getting more organized, and getting like simplifying things. And also, this could pertain to like your schedule and obligations and things that you are saying yes to. I know that I am somebody who tends to say yes to a lot of things. I have a lot of interests and hobbies and ideas and goals and whatnot. So it can be hard for me to say no to things, but that's something I'm working on, and just keeping my schedule and my obligations more low key, so that I have more time to just be present, be efficient in the work that needs to be done, and enjoying my life more right now. And this will help us down the line too. The fewer things that we are committed to doing every day, throughout the week, each month, every season, every year, sometimes when we can reduce that load, when things do change in our lifestyle or in our nation or in our world or whatever that may be, there's fewer things being kind of stripped away from what we're used to. Just these are just things to keep in mind. Okay. And so number 5 is mindset and practice. So when you're considering gathering your preparedness supplies and you're researching these things online, what should I prioritize? What do I need to do first? How do I organize things? How do I store things properly to last a long time if necessary? There's a lot of information, and depending on where you're getting that information, sometimes there is a big blanket of fear and scarcity, and those tactics just blanketed over it, or it really like infused into it. And so it can be easy, I think, for some people to get in that mindset of doing it out of fear. But really, I think the best way to think about it is doing it out of peace of mind, or doing it for peace of mind. Because when you are prepared, when you do have a plan of what to do in certain emergency situations, or whatever that may be, there's, like I said, there's a spectrum. There's a million and one scenarios that could happen. But thinking practically first about what are those things that are more likely to happen. Just thinking in practical terms and just really being prudent, and really like keeping it simple, especially to get started. And again, you can take it as far as you want. And for whatever reasons resonate with you, or that you feel are necessary to be more prepared, I think just know that you're not crazy. A lot of people can think like, oh, you're one of those preppers, you're one of those weirdos who thinks the world's going to end. But I think we all saw, like with the pandemic, that things can change quickly. We see this all the time with natural disasters in our own country, here in the United States and around the world. Like things can happen suddenly, even just losses of family members. Sometimes somebody's in a car accident, and if you could, if you had a extra supply of, everyday essentials for your family, you could spend more time either with that individual at the hospital or just grieving. And so I think there's so many reasons to be prepared, um, for a variety of situations to happen. But yeah, just knowing that you're not crazy, and again, not doing it out of fear and having like a scarcity mindset, but really like an empowered place of, because I'm getting prepared and because I will have preparedness items and skills, I have peace of mind. I can function more efficiently because I have these things ready to go if I ever need them. And the second part of this is the practice. So, really just putting some of those things into practice. I mentioned before, um, like our energy use, waking up early in the morning when it's still dark outside. Are you turning on the lights? At nighttime when it's, or evening time when the sun's going down and it's starting to get darker, are you keeping the lights on? Do you have the lights on during the day when you probably don't need the lights on, because if you have, decent daylight coming through your windows, you wouldn't need lights. And so putting some of these things into practice, like when you wake up in the morning, keep it dark. Maybe light and carry around a candle, whether that's a real candle or like a little LED candle. Um, just kind of challenging yourself and experimenting and practicing some of those habits, and utilizing the like tools and supplies that you do have. Like, for example, a deep pantry is where you have, your emergency supply of food, but it's also your regular supply of food. So you're always adding to it, kind of on the back end. And that's like those expiration dates that are like further out, 2-3 years from now, and you're utilizing the ones that are closer to your date right now. So you're always kind of adding to it and always taking away from it. That's like the deep pantry kind of method there. And so like just putting some of these preparedness things into practice. Like, do you know CPR? When was the last time you brushed up your CPR skills? When was the last time you talked to your children about what to do in certain emergency situations? What if they can't find you when you go to the store? What are they supposed to do? And I think especially with children, it's important to approach this topic and some of these, preparedness steps and like emergency situation kind of steps, like do that mindfully and do that in a way that's not going to instill fear in them, but that's actually going to empower them. Because, hey, if this happens, you're going to know what to do. And so I proposed to my daughter earlier last week. As I was thinking about some of this stuff, I thought, yeah, what if we went to a store and somehow we got separated? Instead of wandering up and down the aisles alone, what should she do in that kind of situation? Should she call out for me? Should she go to the cashier and, tell them that she can't find her adult, her parent, or whoever's with her? Asking them these questions, like, what would you do in this kind of situation? And there's not always a perfect, clear cut answer. And I think being able to think on the fly and not be afraid, because, okay, these are things that we've talked about before. And I know that there's a good, safe thing that I can think to do. I think that can really empower our children if we approach it the right way. And I even proposed to her so that she would feel strong and empowered in a situation like that. Basically, that situation, this is what we were talking about. I said, perhaps one of these days, let's just go to the dollar store. Let's go to the dollar store. And even if I'm standing 10 feet behind you, you can practice going up to the cashier lady and talking to her, just like you need to practice talking to somebody at a store, an employee at a store. Basically, I was telling her, you wouldn't go up to just any stranger. Like, it would be safer for you to go to somebody that works there, and probably the easiest place for you to find someone that works there is going to be at the cash register, right? And so this is just kind of how our conversation was unfolding. But I said, even if I'm standing 10 feet behind you, uh, looking at something on the shelf, you could go up to that cashier and say, I can't find my mom. Can you help me find my mom? I'm going to stay right here while you help me find my mom, kind of thing. So, and that way, if it was that she couldn't find me in the dollar store, then she would know what to do and she would actually have practice doing that. Because in a situation where you're, looking for your parent, you're a little bit frantic and you're a little bit panicked and you're scared. You might want to just be quiet and cry and look up and down the aisles thinking that would be easier or safer. But actually, if she would have the experience going up to the cashier and saying those words like, I can't find my mom or I can't find my adult, then in a situation, if that were ever to happen, she would feel more confident that she's going to be okay, and that she can do that. She can get those words out of her mouth, for her safety. And so, yeah, these are just some of the things that I've been exploring and thinking about and learning about, and I wanted to share them with you in case you would like to consider or start doing them for and with your family. And I do think that preparedness is a really good thing to do with children and to do as a family. For example, fire drills. Like, what would you do if there was a fire on one corner of your house or a certain room in your house or whatever it may be? What are the steps going to be? What is the plan? Where should your family meet in that kind of situation? It's always better to have these things kind of figured out. And if you can practice them beforehand, kind of like we saw with the pandemic, we didn't know when it was going to end, when some of those lockdowns and shutdowns were going to end. So if more people had been prepared, we would have seen less frantic people and situations kind of playing out. So, and perhaps more people would have been safer in their homes because they had the supplies that they need to just stay home. So, all right, that's going to be it for this video. If this is something you're interested in learning more about, or if you want to share about your own preparedness, then I would love for you to comment down below. You can like this video, that always helps and it motivates me for sure. And for more content like this and other holistic health and lifestyle topics, definitely check out my other videos and subscribe to the channel. If you feel inclined to turn on notifications, that's awesome too. I welcome you to this little but growing community, and I look forward to learning more about you and sharing more about the things that interest me. You'll see me in the next video. Take care.